There is a farmhouse in Rhode Island, built in 1693. 330 years of wood and stone and something else, something that refuses to leave. You know this house. You have seen it in theaters, in nightmares. The Conjuring made it famous. But the real story, the one no film could contain, begins long before cameras arrived. Tonight we trace the history of 1677 Round Top Road from colonial foundations to Halloween foreclosure, from alleged witchcraft to YouTube ownership. Some debts, it seems, cannot be settled. On Halloween morning, 2025, this farmhouse was scheduled to be auctioned. 11 o'clock. The gavel would fall on America's most infamous haunted property. But the auction never happened. Someone purchased the mortgage days before. A decision that raises more questions than it answers. Let me tell you how we got here. This is not simply a ghost story. This is a story about what we do with places that hold darkness, and whether that darkness has a price. The farmhouse was constructed in 1693 in what would become Harrisville, Rhode Island. 8 generations of families would live within its walls before the Perrons arrived. The land itself carries weight. Town records speak of suicides, hangings, drownings. A child poisoned. A woman found frozen in the snow. Tragedy accumulated here like sediment. In January 1971, Roger and Carolyn Perron arrived with their 5 daughters. Andrea, the eldest, was 12. The youngest, April, was only 5. They were looking for space, a fresh start away from the city. The asking price was low, surprisingly so. In old houses, you learn, the bargains often come with conditions. According to family accounts, the activity began almost immediately. Doors opening on their own. Footsteps in empty hallways. The smell of rotting flesh with no source. Carolyn Perron, the mother, reported waking to find bruises on her body. As if someone or something had gripped her during sleep. The daughters described seeing apparitions, women in old-fashioned dress, a face appearing in the corner of a room, a presence that watched them sleep. The family lived with these phenomena for nearly a decade from January 1971 until they finally left in 1980. 9 years of nightly terror. In the 1970s, paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren were invited to examine the house. Their involvement would later anchor the film's narrative. The Warrens identified the source of the haunting as Bathsheba Sherman, a woman they claimed practiced witchcraft in the 19th century and cursed the land. According to the legend, Bathsheba sacrificed an infant to Satan and hanged herself when discovered. The story became central to the Conjuring's mythology. But here's what the film does not tell you. Bathsheba Sherman never lived at the Perron farmhouse. She resided on a different property entirely, quite a distance away. Historical researchers have found no evidence that Bathsheba practiced witchcraft, killed any child, or made any demonic pact. She appears to have been an ordinary farmer's wife. Born in 1812, Bathsheba lived a difficult but unremarkable life. She married, raised children, and died in her 80s, not by hanging, but of natural causes. The witch narrative was constructed after the fact, a convenient villain for a story that needed one. Hollywood required a monster. History provided only a name. And yet the Perron family maintains their experiences were real. Andrea Perron has written 3 books detailing what she says happened in that house. Whatever truly happened, whether paranormal activity or the power of belief, the house became something more than property. It became a symbol, a destination. The Conjuring franchise has grossed over $2 billion worldwide, making this modest farmhouse the foundation of a horror empire built on alleged suffering. In 2022, Jacqueline Nunez purchased the farmhouse for $1.5 million more than 10 times what similar properties in the area typically sell for. Nunez operated the property as a tourist attraction, charging visitors for overnight stays and paranormal investigations. Lines stretched down the road. The dead, apparently, are good for business. But neighbors complained. Traffic clogged the narrow roads. Noise disturbed the quiet. And in 2024, the Burrillville Town Council declined to renew the property's entertainment license. Without the license, the income stopped. Without income, the mortgage could not be paid. The house that survived 3 centuries began sliding toward foreclosure. The foreclosure auction was scheduled for 11 a.m. on Halloween 2025. The timing felt less like coincidence than cosmic irony, or perhaps a marketing opportunity. But on October 8, 2025, just weeks before the gavel would fall, someone purchased the underlying mortgage. The auction was canceled without explanation. The buyer operated to a company called Summit and Stone LLC, a corporation formed in Rhode Island just 1 month earlier, in September 2025. Behind that anonymous shell company was YouTuber Elton Castay, a content creator known for exploring allegedly haunted locations. He now held the debt on America's most famous ghost house. Purchasing a mortgage is not the same as owning a property. Castay now controls the debt, meaning he decides whether to foreclose, renegotiate, or wait. The house remains in legal limbo. The current owner, Nunez, still occupies the farmhouse. She cannot operate it as a business. She cannot pay the debt. But for now, she cannot be evicted either. Some view Castay's purchase as predatory, buying the distress of someone who cannot afford their home. Others see it as preservation, keeping the property from uncertain auction fate. The truth, as usual, resists simple categories. A house is property. A haunting is story. But when the two merge, the economics become strange indeed. Over 330 years, this property has seen birth and death, prosperity and ruin. It has outlasted revolutions, depressions, and the rise of horror cinema itself. The ghosts, if there are ghosts, have witnessed it all. They have seen families come and go. They have watched strangers pay money to walk their halls. And now they watch the legal battles unfold. If you find yourself drawn to haunted house stories, consider looking beyond the films. Andrea Perron's 3-book series offers a primary source, the family's own account, unfiltered by Hollywood adaptation. When exploring true haunting narratives, separate documented history from accumulated folklore. Bathsheba Sherman's transformation from farmer's wife to satanic witch shows how stories grow. The property's future remains uncertain. If you want to follow what happens next, local Rhode Island news sources cover the ongoing legal situation with more depth than national outlets. If this kind of story interests you, the places where history, belief, and commerce intersect, consider subscribing. We explore these strange territories every week. As of now, Elton Castay has not publicly stated his intentions for the mortgage. He has remained silent about whether he will foreclose, negotiate, or simply wait. The neighbors continue their opposition. The tourists wait for the gates to reopen. And the house that has for over 3 centuries simply endures. There is something almost fitting about this impasse. The house that allegedly trapped spirits now finds itself trapped between debt and value, between history and spectacle. Perhaps the real haunting was never about what walked those halls. Perhaps it was about what we project onto old wood and empty rooms. The stories we need to believe. The film presented Bathsheba as pure, evil, a demon in human form. Reality offers something more ambiguous, a woman whose name was borrowed for narrative purposes. The Perron daughters are now in their 60s and 70s. They still maintain that what happened to their family was real. Some wounds, they say, never fully close. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the trauma was real. A family lived in fear for 9 years. That suffering needs no supernatural explanation to matter. $2 billion in box office revenue. Dozens of spin-offs and sequels. An entire cinematic universe built on one family's reported terror. And at the center of this empire, a farmhouse that cannot pay its bills. A property worth millions in cultural value. Caught in the mechanics of ordinary debt, the house does not care about its fame. It was built to shelter families, not to generate content. Now it shelters uncertainty and waits for someone to decide its fate. Consider how commercialization shapes these narratives. The Perrons told a story of fear. Hollywood sold a story of evil. The tourists bought a story of thrills. Each version drifts further from source. If you visit Rhode Island, the house still stands, at 1677 Round Top Road. It is private property. You cannot tour it currently, but you can see it from the public road. Just another old farmhouse. From the road, you would never know. It looks like any colonial farmhouse white paint, dark shutters, a roof that has been repaired many times. Nothing about it announces what supposedly lives inside. That ordinariness might be the most unsettling part. The horror lives in the gap between what we see and what we imagine. Old houses specialize in that gap. The Conjuring House will remain. Whether as museum, residence, or ruin, it will outlast the current controversy as it has outlasted everything else. Bathsheba Sherman, whoever she truly was, rests somewhere in Rhode Island soil. The Perrons have scattered across the country, and the dead, if there are dead, keep their own counsel. Some places refuse to let go of their stories. Some debts, the ones written in memory, in fear, in the collective imagination, can never be foreclosed. They only accumulate. This has been Night Shift Stories. The farmhouse at 1677 Round Top Road still stands. The lights go off, the doors close, and somewhere in the dark, the story continues without us.